Hello again! As usual, this is Becca, going by Nightcat or Nightcat's Meow when online, here for another lesson on Linden scripting language. Now, as promised in the past couple of weeks, or teased a little bit earlier, when I said there was a way to control all the parameters of an object that you want to change from one central script and not having to send all those link messages, well, this is the week that I finally tell you how to do it. It centers around a command called llSetLinkPrimitiveParamsFast. I've pulled that up before on the SL wiki, and it definitely, the thing is, it has a lot of different possible options. So I wanted to make sure that we'd gone well over the basics of how to use those options before I got into putting them all in one particularly messy string of command. It actually has three different versions. There's set primitive params, short for parameters, set link primitive params, which allows you to set it to other parts of the same object, and set link primitive params fast. Set link primitive params fast is the one that will get you the smoothest result, and I use it in a couple of very specific builds of my own. But aside from the fact that it operates quicker, it's pretty much the same thing as set link primitive params. The only difference between those two and set primitive params is the addition of which link you're going to send everything to. So I've got the book over here, the big tome. Please forgive any variation between this and the version that you might have. I accidentally deleted the copy that I scripted up during the lesson, so I had to just quickly recreate it from scratch here using the same parts. So any variation you see between what I discussed last time and this will be because of that. But with that in mind, we're going to pop this open here. We have the same starting script. Excuse me while I just try to get it into a good position for working with, where you can see everything. Trying to get better about that. We're going to go through, and each of these different options, the open, the close, and the page, we're going to start importing the different settings out of the pieces that we had in here. Now, one of the things that's going to help with that is being able to get a quick look at which piece it was that we're clicking on, because we need to know which link number we're going to work with. Just like we did to get 3 and 4 as these two parts, the actual pages, we're going to need that again for pretty much everything else we're about to do. So we're going to just quickly use 2 slashes to comment out the current commands. We're doing that because we don't want these to trigger when we're gathering information. Instead, we only want this. Owner say, then link, almost forgot to put the quotation marks in there, space, quotation mark, plus, cast this as a string, get, link number, whoops, that's if we want to get the one that's in, that was detected link number. Sorry, that's the one you need. Detected link number. 0 because it's going to be the first touch that's detected at a given time. There we go. There we go. That tells us that is link number 5. Now, the only parameter we actually had in there was set local rote, short for rotation. Need to remember not to move those script windows because it makes editing them back into place particularly difficult. Now, if you're going to do this yourself, you may want to refer back to the wiki page and find the section for prim rote local right about there. It says you're going to need prim rote local and rotation rote. You can easily copy that list and so back in here, since that was number 5, on open after set rote, set link primitive params fast 5, comma, and then just paste that section from the wiki right there. As always, it is a list, and lists are always contained inside these brackets. So prim rote local is the setting, and then rotation is the number. And we pull those right out of here. So this one is for open. So we'll go back to here, copy that rotation, paste that right in there, copy, paste, and now we want the one for close. So we're going to copy, and paste. Now you may be wondering why I thought this was so complicated. 2 main reasons. One, some of them have a lot more data than this. And making sure that you keep track of all the right parameters, that can get really complicated. I really recommend bookmarking this page on the wiki. I'll actually include a link down below just so you don't have to worry about searching it up and getting a different one that I'm looking at. But also you can combine them. We don't need to do this for the rotation here. We will need to do this for others. We will get to those in a bit. So we're actually going to go ahead and remove that script. And we're going to go over to this one, get a look at it, find out which link it is as link number 2. Got to remember about not moving my script windows. So we'll just copy that over, make that number 2, number 2. Again, same information for close on number 2. For open on number 2. Delete the script in there. Those functions have now been added to the primary script. Just tried to demonstrate it, forgetting to turn all these back on. So, comment that out. And turn all the rest of that back on. See, they're acting just like you're used to, except now your 2 covers are controlled entirely from the central script. They have no script inside them. Now, the other way you can get that data, by the way, the link number data, is by doing this. State entry, owner say, string, you should be used to that by now. Get link number. And it will tell us we're dealing with link number 3. This time we're going to need set rotation, set position, and set scale. This is where we get into some of the real power of llSetLinkPrimitiveParamsFast. Set that for number 3. First, we've already got the settings in there for local rote or local rotation. So we'll copy and paste. Now, we add a comma. We're adding an entirely new entry to it. This time we want position. So until you get really, really used to it, and I mean more so than me, because I do keep checking back with this, pop back to the wiki and copy the information under the setting for prim rotation. Then pop back, paste that in place. Notice I did not add another set of brackets. That's because this is part of the same list. So we're still running off the same information we had before. This is equivalent to set position. So again, we copy and paste. And last, we're going to add scale, pop back to the wiki, and that's listed under prim size. And I actually see something in here that tells me I made a mistake. In set primitive parameters, there is a prim position local. I'd accidentally copied the location, the rotation one too. That was something I did wrong. But prim position local. Remember when I was teaching this book before, or even the gate before, and I mentioned that there's not a, I'll even show it right here. There is not a set local position, just a set local rotation. You see the color changed because it's considered a valid command, but there is no set local position. There is a set local position in llSetLinkPrimitiveParamsFast, and it does make a difference. Just one more little bit of complication that is one of the reasons I put off teaching this until I'd gone over how to use position, rotation, scaling, all of that in a simpler way. So prim position local there. And then we're going to add in prim size. Again, copied off the wiki because it's the easiest way to make sure you get it just right. Don't need the extra bracket. And again, it is the exact same data that was already in here. So we just have to copy and paste. At that point, that one line, it all compiles. It will all work. We're going to kill that script. And you even see the difference it makes right there. That's already in place when that one goes. And if you're at all doubting it's in the right place, whoops, it is not. What did I do wrong? I can tell you exactly what I did wrong, and I should not have deleted that script. We hadn't added that in yet. I'm being a derp. I apologize. I usually get those things better, but it's kind of late at night right now. I've got a lot of snow piled up outside, and I've had a lot of stuff I've had to deal with. I did something briefly stupid. For that, you have my apologies. But there's an easy way to get most of the information, and that is off of this one right here. It actually, because of how that is set up, paste the scale, you know what, you can just copy and paste the same things. Don't delete it like I did there. I really hope you didn't. I'll make a note in there not to delete it, that was a mistake on my part. It does happen. I'm not perfect. I've been doing this a while, but I'm not perfect. This is one of the reasons that in professional programming environments, backups for everything. Fortunately, we can make this work. That was me doing something dumb. See? That pretty much resolves that. That did not move because we did not set its position, only its rotation. There. That's fixed. One small goof for me, one very important lesson on keeping track of what you're doing for the rest of you. So we'll pop that back open. Have a look over here. One or say. String. Get link number. You notice again how that turned red as soon as I got the capitalization right. The compiler is your friend. It will tell you things like if your command is in there right. Link number 4. Link number 4. Now, am I setting these up to go down like that? Each line? That's purely for my convenience. As far as the computer is concerned, this is all one line of code. I could drag this window out, and that would all fit on one line, and that's how the computer interprets it. But the line breaks don't interfere with the compiler understanding your code, and they make it much easier for a human to understand your code. So that's just a good thing to do. So we go back here, take its open settings, local rote, local rotation. Whoops. Wind up with double sets of brackets. That would be incorrect. Again, when you're using it as its own thing, set position. If it is the root prim, it moves the entire object relative to whatever moves the entire object to whatever that position is in the sim. If it's not the root prim, it moves relative to the root prim. Excuse me. Pardon me there, had a bit of a hiccups fit there. Basically, you can think of your setting position for the root prim, you're setting position relative to the center of the sim. If you're setting position for anything that is not the root prim, you're setting relative to the center of the root prim. However, llSetLinkPrimitiveParamsFast actually does specify a difference between prim position and prim position local. It's an annoying inconsistency in the language that I really would prefer that they would make the same way both ways, but I have no control over that aspect of Second Life whatsoever. There. Now we have established the size, rotation, and position. Save. Compile complete. Kill that. Oops. I put the wrong data in one of those. I put in the wrong data. I see the problem right there. I forgot to change that from a 3 to a 4. Yep, there it goes. And you also see how much faster the response is there. You see less of the transformations and delays. But you also see more of a problem with this one. So we're going to highlight it with a glow, pop that closed. If you did not make my little mistake, you don't have to worry about this. If you did, then this is a lesson on the easy ways to fix a problem. Like so. We'll create a new line here, new script here. Owner say, rotation, rotation for open, position, and size. And close. Rotation. Position. and size. Now this time, for testing purposes, since we have all that to go through as well, we're not actually going to remove the rest. We're just going to turn off the open and close. Even remove the open and close. But since there's no longer any other ifs, we can't have it be else if, since there's nothing to be else from. So there we go. Notice there's something missing. Is it really not there? Nope, it's there. So why didn't it show up? Because we didn't bring over the alpha control. Now there is a way to set alpha through this, but it's through the actual texture options as opposed to by itself. So for specifically alpha, we're going to use a different method. And it's virtually identical to the one I've shown you before. And that is going to go like so. Set link alpha. Now, if you're wondering if there's a set link for everything else, we've shown you link texture and now link alpha. There are for a lot of things, but not for as many as there are for set link primitive parameters. Alpha and texture are pretty much, and color are the main ones you want to deal with. Beyond that, use link primitive parameters. First thing you give it is which link number, then the setting, 1, then sides. So you see it's identical to the command from before, except for we're adding a link number first. So adding that in. And there we go. Now it shows up. Now we're basically just going to reproduce this page and wait. So we'll take an actual copy of the float for wait, paste it to the list up here, and this is just going to be a series of settings for local rotation. Here we have the actual page numbers. Now here we set a sleep before these. That worked here specifically because it's a separate script from the one that was turning the page. A sleep stops the script in its tracks. It does nothing during that time. If we tried to do that while making this script control the turning of the page itself, pardon me a moment while I turn up my sun here. If we tried to do that well in the same script as doing the turning of the page itself, that means it would stop acting entirely during that time. So that isn't going to help us here. So we're going to take those out. And we're going to insert all of these, but we'll be changing these. The first most obvious one we're going to change is this to a link alpha 6, which means we also change this to a link. Whoops. Six, comma. And now to adjust these. We can go back up to the ones for the covers. Copy that. And paste it right over that. We'll change that to a 6. Now you can easily go in, paste, paste. I'm just using a simple Control V. One of the three top most useful Windows shortcuts. Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and Control Z to undo. You'll be hard-pressed to find more useful keyboard shortcuts. That I accidentally left in an extra L. Doing this, you don't even have to gather your information again. You can just go through, copy and paste all of that. The only other quirk is you need to close the bracket on the other end. So much easier than going through and getting that information again, wouldn't you say? So much easier. But there is a way that is even easier than that. I'll demonstrate it over here. That would be Edit, Search and Replace. You search for set local root, replace it with that. Use it each time you can replace it, or just hit replace all. Even easier. Don't need to save that. Now the trick is, where are you going to insert these? Well, to figure that out, there's a few ways we could do it. One of them would be to just copy and paste them into a point in here and figure out I will have had to mute a little thing there. My housemate was saying something during my recording. My apologies, people. As I was saying, use copy and paste, stick it in there, and see how well it sits. Obviously, that'll only position that way for one set. But since the other set still has the link message, and we haven't deleted that script yet, it'll still work. You know, I think that worked. So, we will eliminate those two, since we won't need those anymore. Copy this. Paste it in there. And remember to change these to page 1 and page 2. Or whatever your page numbers were for down there. And that takes care of that. You can now go here, eliminate that script, and it still works perfectly. Folds up, opens up, and turns its pages. The only other thing I think that I would try to teach you all in regards to this specifically is if you have a book with a lot of pictures, there's a little trick to preload pictures. You see, there's nothing textured on the insides here. So, don't really still need a script there, except to give us one more piece of information. And that is to get the faces Yeah, keyboard's getting away from me. There it is. That is fixed up. We're going to use this on both sides. Copy. 4. And 4. All right. You can Control Z to reposition these, or since their position is one of the factors in the script, we could have just closed the book and opened it again. Either way would have worked. But a way to preload textures. What this would be for is if you had a much bigger book with a lot more pictures, like a photo album, then you'd be able to go through and store the next pictures on those faces where they're hidden away, where you won't see them looking at the book normally. But the fact that we'll have the texture on there and loaded, Second Life will force the browser, the thing you're looking, your viewer, to load that texture into memory. Thus, when the page turns, it will already have been loaded. And the way we're going to do that is pretty much the same way we do this. The difference is just which face we're going to use. Whereas before we used face 1, now we use face 4. Loading page 3 and page 4. You would just simply, instead of where I'm putting 3 and 4, you would put in whatever the next would be if you have these set up for multiple pages. Next week, I will do something for you that will expand this just a touch more. You notice how every time we create one of these functions, we have to have a spot for arguments. Next week, I will show you a way to do this that actually uses those arguments, so that we'll actually go through and have one page turning and have that automatically update the page numbers to whatever you want, no matter how long your list of it is. So that will make things a little bit easier for you. But first, we're going to have a quick look at this. There we have the pages changed. And there you see, preloading the textures there. And there you have it. That's one of the things I've been promising to teach you all for a while, how to control everything from the single master control script. So next week, I'll teach you a little bit more about functions, and I think I'll even show you something with a loop. When I was talking directly with somebody that follows these videos, she had noticed my little rotating picture frame that fades from one picture to another. I'll go ahead and show you all how to make one of those. And so at that point, when we're done with functions, I'll probably move on to something like sound or animation for a bit after that. So look forward to seeing you all again. I have back the ability to schedule posts, so I should be back to my noon on Tuesday. Those of you that have been seeing it earlier, that was because I was having trouble with a particular function on YouTube. But I have that function back, so I'll be back to my noon release schedules for Tuesdays. So anyway, have fun, good day, and as always,